Thank you for staying with us. We just watched President Muhammadu Buhari giving his Democracy Day speech to give his account of stewardship since he got to power 3 years ago. And he ended it on a good note, assuring Nigerian youths that it's going to sign the Not Too Young to Run bill.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we listened for about, 25 or 26 minutes,
yeah.
To the president, really now to all the achievements, what I thought would be achievements within the, 3 years that they've spent in office. But let's now bring in our guests
in the studio,
to help us to begin
analyze.
to deconstruct, if you like, some of the president's speeches. Well, let's first introduce Oladeyinde Ariyo, security expert and public policy analyst. We also have Alfred Kerempado, Secretary General at Your Youth Council Worldwide, and Charles Ideha, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you very much indeed for coming,
Good morning, and you're welcome. Happy Democracy Day.
Same to you. Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, first off, let's start with you. Charles, let me start with you since you're a journalist. Before we start, it seems we are being joined via Skype by the CEO of Diaspora PR, Jermaine Sowolu. Good morning to you, Jermaine. Happy Democracy Day.
Yeah, hello, Jermaine.
Right.
How are you today?
Okay.
Very pleased to see your face, even though you can't see mine.
All right. Yes, I hope you watched the president's speech. Okay, we'll get to you. It seems we are having audio issues with Jermaine, so we'll try to establish contact with him since he's in Nigeria in a diaspora, of course. Charles, let me come back to you. The president started the speech describing our democracy as nascent. 19 years down the line, does it still seem nascent to you?
Well, I think that word becomes very subjective by use. What is nascent to him may not be nascent to me. If you begin to look at it as being nascent, it means that they are saying that there's so much to be done. But we are saying that we are using the years we have spent on the road, about nearly 2 decades now. That should be nascent. It should be latent. I think there's a word called latent, okay, which is I think the exact direct opposite of nascent. But again, he has said it's nascent. We're still going through learning process. Maybe that's what he means by being nascent. We're not there yet. We're not at that Eldorado that we have thought would be 3 years down the line, because remember all the promise of change, that business was not going to be as usual. Things were going to be done differently from what we had, because there was going to be a total departure from what obtained in the past. But we are yet to see that. So maybe that's why that sobriquet, nascent, is still very, very germane in this year. Yeah, exactly. So that's where I see it, honestly.
I have a different position in the sense that an 18-year-old child is deemed by law to be of age, can vote and be voted for. If after 19 years and coasting towards the 28th year, we're still considering our democracy as nascent, I'm afraid it's not a pass mark. Okay, we ought to have moved several notches further down the road. Unfortunately, and like he said, we've been very long on promises and very short when it comes to delivery and performance. I don't know if I should launch it to what I've observed straight away, or maybe there might be other time, because I was expecting specific mention on efforts being made to get Ilya Sharibu out of the confines of the insurgents. Yes, but nothing was done. Very painfully again, I went through this speech twice, and I couldn't see anything on healthcare. Does that mean we will continue to spend so much money, hard-earned forex, on medical tourism or what? Does it mean the president himself will continue going abroad for treatment? I mean, this for me, it's a big minus. I was expecting specific mention of what is being done to at least give us one global standard medical facility in Nigeria.
You just had to go into it because we wanted to even start with some of the pluses for him, with the efforts of the government so far. Before
that's where I'm coming from. I mean, because I was expecting specifically, I've attended a few events lately all about protesting the continued incursion of the Sharibu, and people are getting worried and agitated, you know. And I was expecting that, okay, this will be addressed. And like I said again, the issue of Medicare, it has become a very sore thumb, you know, in the package of this administration. The expected change, yes, we may say we've had some modicum of activity here and there, but the pass mark is still miles away.
Okay, Alfred, what do you have to say? By the speech, were you impressed? Not so much?
No, I'm not too impressed. For me, there are components of the speech that are exaggerated, even from his opening remark, where the president had to give a pass mark to security, corruption, and the economy. Obviously, I know even the president understands that we have underperformed when it comes to security. Instead of curbing what he meant, we have added ranks, such as the rank of herdsmen and other security challenges to what he meant. When he talk about corruption, we had expected the president to fight corruption from his seat, but we have also observed, respectfully, let me say so, respectfully, let me say, we have observed corruption even from the president's table. I'm talking about the case of the Secretary to Government of the Federation that is not properly treated even till today. Former Secretary to Government of the Federation. Right. And we have also observed in the process of time that even the fight against corruption that it talked about is perceived to be selective. And so, because we have experienced people move from party A to party B, just like if you're in party A, you are demonized. You move to party B, you become a saint. And in the beginning of even his fight against corruption, we saw him prosecute, or he's still prosecuting people like Olisa Metu. I have nothing against it. Some time ago it was Femi Fani-Kayode. I have nothing against it, but the moral question you will want to ask is... Because
these people served...
1 minute, that's the moral question I want to ask. I agree. I agree. This is the moral question I want to ask. So if the fight is not selective, as I have stated before, you can prosecute Olisa Metu, publicity secretary, Femi Fani-Kayode, who was in the campaign. The question is, where is the party chairman? From the day the PDP handed over till today, are we saying that all of these people received money, but the chairman of the party never received any money and should not be praised? So is he being shielded because he is Fulani, or because he played a card, or what? So these are moral questions people ask them. When you go to the economy, you can see the president trying to explain how much the economy is trying to bounce back. So by his speech, he has also failed the process of the growth of our economy. And like some analysts will say, that when it comes to the economic approaches, the president scored many own goals. And in recent times, is trying to equalize some of the own goals he scored. And is expecting us to applaud him for the own goals he's trying to equalize. So if you look at these areas, then when you even come to the issue of the Niger Delta...
All right, Alfred, just before you go any further, let's go to the UK, where our CEO Diaspora, Pierre German Sholo, has been waiting. We understand the audio is not been fixed. Jermaine, well, we asked earlier, my colleague asked earlier, if you also had the chance to listen to the president's speech. Would you like to tell us what you think about the president's speech? Were you impressed in any way?
Well, yes, I listened to the speech on your YouTube channel, TVC News, and the speech was quite interesting. It was a very, very long speech. Up to, I think, 31 or 32 points or something like that. And he started off quite well. The tone of this speech was quite different from previous ones. Here, you heard him saying things like, "My dear Nigerians," fellow countrymen and women. And that shows that he tried to connect more with the Nigerian populace. And if you even see his body language when he was communicating also, he looked straight into the camera many times, unlike before. That shows he wanted to show a connection with Nigerian people. Altogether, in those 30+ points that he read out, it was quite good. Basically, more than an independent speech, it was more like a quote-unquote a campaign speech, whereby he just listed all what the government has been doing over the past 3 years. One would have expected to hear more things about our independence as a nation, our democracy as a nation, how it has evolved over the years, and what the government is doing to ensure that more democratic values are actually put in place so that the country can actually run best. Like the rule of law, ensuring that court orders and other things are upheld. And also, it was quite a very, very interesting speech in that he also mentioned the not too young to run bill that is going to sign. I think tomorrow or so will mark about 8 days or so that the not too young campaigner has actually said that they're going to give an ultimatum ends. So he tried to address that. And last, he said about the elections, 2019 elections. One thing that he said was that he ensures that that election is actually going to be, I'm going to read his words. He said that we're going to have credible and violence-free elections. Nigerians would have hoped that in his speech would have said that they will be free and fair, that this Ekiti elections coming, that they have up to 17 people, I think governors, going to Ekiti to go and campaign, and also the 2019 elections. We hope that it's going to be free and fair. But all in all, we in the diaspora, looking at this speech, we believe that it's kind of a good speech, a campaign speech, and we hope that the president will actually do and improve on what he has said in that speech.
Of course, Jermaine, you're a PR person, and of course, so we understand that every word matters to you, and that is why you were able to, to pinpoint some of these mannerisms of the president and some words he used in his speech. So let's look at when he mentioned Boko Haram insurgency. He mentioned kidnapping and then farmers, herdsmen and farmers clashes as well, just in passing. Were you impressed with that, or you expected more from him to talk about those decisively, especially the killings in the Middle Belt?
Well, he just touched on it a bit, saying things that the criminal elements will be brought to justice, also that herdsmen and farmers clashes. That's how we described it. But remember the president in the UK, he said that it was actually some Libyan people that were armed from the Libyan, people that had guns and all those ammunition from the Libyan civil war that happened there, and is infiltrating into the country. That means our borders are under siege and there are foreign attackers coming. So it's not just about herdsmen and farmers clashes that it should have been addressing. This is more about like a terrorist attack, terrorist invasion that has to involve various nations from Libya, Cameroon, Niger, all around the sub-Saharan Africa. We are seeing an invasion of people coming to the country and wreaking havoc. And if you look at it from the Fulani herdsmen or herdsmen clashes, this has gone beyond clashes. This is now, some people are alleging that it's actually ethnic cleanse, or people are saying that these people are that is banditry. So if the president sees it as farmers herdsmen clashes, and he doesn't see it as attacks by terrorists and people who mean no good for the country, then we have to question, maybe that is why his body language towards this issue is not as aggressive as Nigerians will hope it will be. IPOB was designated a terrorist group, and they were just making noise, but these ones are attacking, and it's being described as a farmers and headmen clash. It's more than farmers and headmen clash, in my opinion.
All right, Jermaine, you stay with us. We're going to be back with you. Let's talk to the gentleman here in the studio. Charles, yes. Well, let's look at some of the tripartite issues now: security, corruption, and economy. That's right. Let me start with security. Boko Haram. You remember very clearly that during the past administration, Boko Haram was more like a hydra-headed monster. But it's been degraded to an extent, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is, which is part of why I should give the government a pass mark on that aspect. If you look at the point number 3 of his speech, he said that public safety and security remains, the primary duty of this government. But he said, what he was talking about before his administration, that Boko Haram had, for about 3 years, they had a large number of territory. But on the one hand, you were able to degrade that, okay, which is applaudable. But on the other hand, you now inherited even a bigger monstrosity in the herdsmen's killing of innocent and helpless Nigerians. Why I call it a bigger monstrosity is that Boko Haram, you knew where they were, the northeast. You were able to contain them. They had about 14 local governments under their control. Then you were having these suicide bombings, and then people entering into the churches and blowing people up and into the markets. That has been able to, they've been able to do something along that line. But again, now what you are having now is even more spread across Nigeria than the enclave that they had in Northeast. So that's why I say it's even a bigger monstrosity. And when you take a look at the body language of the government, for instance, what Jammeh said about it, I expected for a proper mention of the Middle Belt area. What's been happening in Benue State. We just heard about the incursion into Taraba, the seminary. So then when he mentioned the issue of the release of 106 Chibok girls and then 104 of Dapchi, he also missed the opportunity, as one of my colleagues said here, about what is being done to assuage the feelings of the feelings of the people who are apprehensive about what's the name? So I think for now, what the government should do is that let's leave politics out of this matter. Let us face this problem of herdsmen incursion into villages, into places. Charlie, frontally.
Is there a sense in which the way that the government has handled the issue has helped to exacerbate what we have on ground?
No, there's none, because you saw what you heard what Jammeh said. On the one hand, we've been told that politicians are using it, okay, to demarcate the president. Yeah. Then you also hear the minister of security, what's his name now, Masor, is saying that this is just a. You see, everybody just trying to bring in what is not. So which one do we believe? Then the president on the one hand also said that it is the renegades from Libya. But today now he's saying that it's they got information that was classes. Members of ISWA. Okay, so the question is that which one do we believe? That's why I'm saying that it doesn't seem as if the government has a hold on the fight against this bigger monstrosity. But we do have, the government owes us a duty when he says that public safety is and paramount. Security, yeah. We must see it. Not only the president mouthing it, but they must do something about that. Before, when we are facing election years now, right? When the election comes, for instance, a lot of things like flood of activities, you never can tell what politicians will be doing. So the government must actually put its foot down to ensure that we reduce, as they have degraded the issue of Boko Haram. Let's see how we can degrade this one as well.
All right, Alfred, talking about security as well, since you're from the Niger Delta region, the president talked about your region enjoying relative peace due to social inclusiveness, and then cooperation from elders of the Niger Delta and other well-meaning Nigerians from that region, and then said that the Ogoni cleanup is on course. I recall months ago, we had someone here in the studio, and the person said he spoke with some elders from that community, and they said nothing was being done. So tell us now, what is being done in that area?
In my intro, I talked about the president exaggerating so much, with due respect to him. We talked about the Ogoni cleanup. This is 3 years down the line. The next Democracy Day speech is about the 4th day, and we have seen nothing with respect to the cleanup or the debate. It's also important for me to mention to you that the cleanup of Ogoni is so metaphorical of the whole environmental filth and dirt in the Niger Delta. It's not just the Ogoni land that needs that amount of cleanup. That's why I describe it as a metaphor for the cleanup of the entire Niger Delta. The whole of Ijaw land, the whole of Ishekiri land, and the whole of the many oil-producing lands in the Niger Delta needs cleanup, and nothing is being done about it. But you see, it doesn't stop there. The long effect is that now that the world is moving towards a non-oil dependent world, we now begin to ask questions like what will now become of the arable and productive Niger Delta when oil is no more in place, if we don't take advantage of the oil resources that we have today to clean up that environment and make it the kind of environment as we have in other global...
Well, surely the president is doing something right for the people there, because, like he said, the region is enjoying relative peace. And
now, let me correct. The president is absolutely wrong when it comes to that. As a matter of fact, the relative peace we are enjoying in the region is consequent upon the efforts of elders and the sacrifice of the people. Now, let me tell you something. This administration did not only promise, this administration leaped a bit to even provoke the Niger Delta by making fake promises saying IOCs will relocate to the Niger Delta. We have not seen a memo from the respective ministry departments of agencies. We have not even seen departments of these oil multinationals move to the Niger Delta. I am not saying this with the eye of the selfishness of the Niger Delta, but that is the best practice everywhere in the world. Like I have said in many forums, that everywhere this oil is found in the world, you see the multinationals operate within that region. I have said it. Go to Norway. The multinationals are not in Oslo. They are in Stavanger. Go to the UK. The multinationals are not in London, the one operating within the oil industry. They are around the Aberdeen region where the oil is found. Go to the United States. Chevron, our headquarters and everything is within. So you see this abnormal politics of people taking advantage of the Niger Delta, polluting the environment, extracting our resources, and paying our taxes somewhere else. And now let me also tell you this. The presidency and the president, in the form of an active president, graciously, as we appreciate, promised that oil multinationals are moving down to that place. And we have not seen one till today. Now let me also tell you, beyond that, the president and this presidency has excluded the people of the Niger Delta, deliberately and politically, from the economy of the oil operations. If you watch very well, even in recent times, you will see the haunting and hounding of Niger Delta people who have only few oil blocks. You understand? I really don't want to make a case for Malabu oil now, but that's an example. Haunting them out of the oil industry. But you see, when you talk about security, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, if you understand what critical security is all about, which I expect the president and the presidency to understand, you know that there's a direct correlation between insecurity and underdevelopment. And when you talk about the security of the Niger Delta, the security of the Niger Delta is not about the deployment of operation this, operation that, and this conventional military security that comes with guns, ammunition, and other, even if we respect the decision of the top brass of the service chief. The security of the Niger Delta actually starts from the critical economic infrastructural development of the Niger Delta and the education of our people to appreciate that infrastructural economic development so much that it becomes so robust that it's inclusive of all Nigerians.
All right, Alfred. Now, if you say that the relative peace that is enjoyed in the Niger Delta at the moment is just due to the efforts of the elders, you remember very clearly that the vice president paid a personal visit to the Niger Delta region and had meetings with traditional rulers and the rest of them. Are you saying that that didn't have any impact? And if you also say that the IOCs have not relocated, just as the presidency promised, the administration is not over yet for you to say, okay, the administration is over now and nothing happened.
Excuse me, Mr. President is already talking about the coming elections. The administrations are almost over. The administration is almost over and we are running into the elections for the next year. And let me tell you this. You see, the peace that we enjoy in the Niger Delta today is reflective of the true character of the people of the Niger Delta, not as they are demarcated in other regions. I say this to mean this. The vice president who came to the Niger Delta as the acting president then made so many fantastic promises. And I can tell you here that all the promises are unfulfilled, just like the many other promises. They are all failed. Top among the promises is the relocation of the IOC. they never do anything. Top among the promises is the cleanup of Ogoni land. Nothing has been done. Top among the promises was the establishment and the uptake of the university at Ekrankoko. Nothing did happen. Top among the promises was about the potency and the reinforcement of the infrastructure there. As I speak to you, not even the east-west road that is being used by all Niger Delta has been attended to. Now, let me also tell you.
Well, of course, you know, the east-west road is getting attention under this administration.
It is not. Now, I'm coming from there. It might not be
from that region.
Not now. It is me that will tell you.
All right.
Or you've sent your cameraman to follow me.
Anyway, from
no, the little attention that the east-west road had in the form of the filling of potholes and bad promises are from little intervention agencies and not the federal government expected robust expansion. And in short, the president of the Joy Youth Council had an accident on that road recently and almost died. We are even talking about the herdsmen, not to divert into it. Herdsmen came to around Ugeli Wari in Delta State and even shot at the president of the Joy Youth Council. So what are we talking about? You see, my dear, if we are not careful in this country, we will soon begin to accept abnormal circumstances as norm. For a president to come here and tell Nigerians about how the 106 Dapchi girls, come on, why should we even talk about a kidnap of that magnitude in this region when the original promise that brought him into the office is that we will never see such. Now we are beginning to celebrate that there was such a kidnap and there was a release and one is still held hostage. My dear, we must not compare our practices and our promises in this country with worst practices, but with best practices.
Okay, let's get to Mr. Ariyo at this point. Yes, talking about security, being sacrosanct to any society.
I was thinking you would pass the question to me because I was really daring to hammer it. I want to say that insofar as dealing with Boko Haram is concerned, government has done quite well. Here we were when they had 5 states firmly under their control. They had their flags, flying in those places, and the people were being subjected to paying taxes and rates to their authorities. But today, that is not the same. The story has been rewritten. However, because I said it earlier that we are faced principally with 3 security issues: Boko Haram, the Fulani herdsmen, and banditry. Okay? Now, with Boko Haram, we may say that to that extent, they've been able to, we've really broken down their capability to wreak serious havoc. But, again, we still have them throwing bombs, walking to places, wired up, and killing, people. This week, the last week that just gone, there were records. Now, coming to the Fulani herdsmen issue, Taraba and Benue State, the 2 states that you can confirm from anybody that are majorly responsible for the food that we eat in Nigeria today, they are under needless attacks. So much so that I can tell you that if nothing farmer and serious is done, we may walk without knowing into food insecurity. Okay, because the amount of killing has turned those 2 states to a lake of blood.
And sorry to interrupt you, we also had the former, military top personnel, Danjuma.
Former defense minister.
His statement was made out of frustration. Okay, at his level, if you know him, he's not
out of conviction.
He's not a flippant person. He's not talkative. God bless you. He's not a talkative person, and he's self-respecting. If you know him, he's not the type you see talking here and there. But for him to have sat somewhere and reviewed all of these things and came to that conclusion, should tell you how serious
but the
it
army
is.
has absolved
We won't sit
itself,
here in Lagos.
Mr. Ariyo, the army has absolved itself of any blame from the accusation level.
You see, you cannot, let's even give it to them to say, you don't expect them to come and say we are guilty.
Okay, let's go to Jermaine Sawolu now. Thank you very much for staying with us, Jermaine. Now, let's look at the DRR program being talked about by the president, saying that IDPs would be given enough attention. A lot has been done for them to provide for them. But we hear different stories from Human Rights Watch and other groups accusing the government and even the military of subjecting these people, talking about IDPs now, to toward behaviors. And apart from that, the president mentioned DRR, that's de-radicalization, rehabilitation and reintegration, though he didn't go into it. But if you had followed the news in the country, it talked about rehabilitating Boko Haram members and other radicalized people into the society. What would you have to say about that?
Well, I believe that is a good initiative, but what has happened in the IDP camp, as you said, has been atrocious. You know, they've been trying so much to help to support those people there, but there have been allegations of people in charge of that place actually asking for sex or other favors before they release some goods to them, and there have been so much allegations of such things happening there, and we have to ensure that that place, that IDP area, has to be safe and secure for people who actually stay there. It's meant to be a place of refuge, not a place of abuse. And it's quite interesting what the DRR program or DDR program I was talking about is similar to what happened in the Niger Delta during the amnesty program, whereby they were actually called to give up their weapons and be integrated and trained and all that. And I believe that what the president is trying to do to those people who have been engaged and involved in the Boko Haram atrocities over the years. And let's hope it will be successful. Because in the Niger Delta, it was more about develop our area, give us something to eat. But in the Northeast, it's more about religion. It's more about an ideology, and that may be hard to expunge out of people. How do you make them stop changing that view? And lastly, what I would like to talk about, which is very, very important, that the president mentioned, was that he spoke about, you know, trying to touch. I have a soft spot for women. He spoke about the tremendous impact that the women are having towards national development. You should remember that some of them are in the IDP camp too with their children. But there is one woman that's actually suffering very much, and we should not forget about her. It's Rebecca Sharibo, the mother of Leah Sharibo, the person who was kidnapped in the Dapchi incident, but has not been released till today. I believe the president has to be strong in ensuring that that is actually resolved. And let's not just bash the president about his speech and all that. He said some very good things, which we must say are very, very commendable, about the conditional cash transfers that the government has done. Over 297,000 caregivers trained by over 2,000 community facilitators. And he spoke about also the 5,000 naira that have been given monthly to people. And people will say, where is that 5,000 naira being distributed? I believe the answer to that question is because he said that it is being done in 9 pilot states, such as Bauchi, Borno, Ekiti, Kwara, Kogi, states which are not really visible to many people when it comes to media attention, like Lagos, Kaduna, or Abuja, maybe because people are not seeing it. And also spoke about the loans being given, over 264,000 loans in the government enterprise empowerment programs and the Empower Jobs Creation Scheme. That 200,000 people have actually been empowered and 300,000 more are going to be empowered. So they've been doing a bit, and he spoke about that. But in all, we hope the president to actually sit up and do much more, because he has a lot at stake, as we know the elections are coming next year.
Of course, is Democracy Day, and we are trying to look at the president's speech. We still have the gentleman in the studios here with us, Lade Ario, security expert and public policy analyst, Alfred Kemepado, Secretary General, Joy Youth Council, and Charles Sideho, public affairs analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Right, and Charles, Jermaine Showaloo is also
before we went
in the UK.
Excuse me.
Right.
I was saying that we were confronting 3 issues in security: Boko Haram, Fulani harassment, and banditry. My challenge now is, what is government doing to confront banditry? What I mean banditry, I'll give you a very classic example. 3 weeks ago, it was in the news that 87 people traveling between Kaduna and Abuja were abducted. Yes. Over time, they said it was not true. But just on Thursday, 31 people were abducted. And family members of those who were abducted, they came out to confirm that there are people traveled on that road on that day. Till date, they've not been found. I would have also expected an affirmative statement telling us what government is doing to address banditry.
All right. Now, okay, let's move to other area now. We've talked about security. Let's talk about the economy. Charles, yes. There are two epistemological concepts. That's the theory of knowledge, which are empiricism and rationalism. Empiricism, rationalism says the certainty of knowledge is guaranteed through the mind, reason. But empiricism is saying the certainty of knowledge is guaranteed through sense experience. Right. I see, I feel, I believe.
That's right.
I belong in that school of thought. Let's look at the economy. How do you think that the economy has performed? The president reeled out quite a number of achievements within the economy. First, it says that there was positive growth in quarter one of 2018, 1.95% growth, and then and all other achievements. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think in fairness to this government, things have been done positively, but the problem is that the over-concentration of the activities on the macro level has not reflected the informal sector. Because whether it's America, whether it's Japan, anywhere you have thriving economies is dependent majorly on the micro sector.
The MSMEs.
The SMEs and all that. But we have not been able, as we have in Nigeria, what we have is that over-concentration, as I said. And we are still not the FDI that is supposed to come in to bolster the economy. We're not having that because of insecurity. Because I'm not sure that any right-thinking investor, foreign investor, any investor offshore will bring in funds into a polity that's insecure. So we are having problems. What we are having is just figures. But again, I can say that on the issue of TSA and the BVN and then this other
sovereign wealth
the
fund.
Government has actually done well, especially the TSA. They've been able to plug certain holes that have been leaking over the years that people have latched on.
Not all the holes, anyway.
I said most of the most of the holes anyway that people have latched on to siphon. So exactly. Yeah. So they've done quite a lot on that. But what the government needs to do is to look at how you can bring in this micro credit system. Okay, like Lagos State is doing with this loans to the artisans and so on. So it's beyond the you win,
but
there
are efforts, Charles. There have been efforts, of course, like we know, the Anchor Borrower Scheme, how rice farmers have benefited from what we have.
You are saying rice farmers because of course, you have gone into an angle. And the rice farmer, what about the cocoa farmers? What about the cotton farmers? I mean, do you know exactly, do you know what cotton, the cultivation of cotton can do to our economy? Because of the dependence of the textile industry on cotton. And do you know exactly what you are going to do?
The textile industry was a booming one.
If you know exactly how many jobs you are going to create by default, you don't even need to do much. What you need to do is that when the right policy is there to bring back the textile industry, is going to throw up floor of activities in cotton growing, those who are going to be harvesting, the ones who are going to be spinning the yarn.
Value chain.
The value chain is so encouraging. Okay, so but what are we doing? Everything, we are all focusing on rice, and then we're no longer importing from Thailand and all these other areas that. It's only one sector. The cocoa farmers are still suffering. What about the yam, the issue? What about the cassava? We're talking about cassava bread. What has happened to that policy?
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying, that it has to be all encompassing. It has to be frontally addressed. Not just this pick, you are just picking them and then it's as if it's not happening.
No, from what you just said now, mentioning cassava bread, will make you have an understanding that sometimes it might not be the fault of the government, all the ways. Sometimes it could be on the part of the people, because when cassava bread was introduced, many Nigerians criticized it. And many didn't even patronize it. And if they bring it back today, how many Nigerians will buy cassava bread? In essence, I'm saying, maybe some policies, once Nigerians don't like it, they abandon it.
It was a political decision. Okay?
To do what? Political decision to do what?
I mean, to now say you want to bring cassava bread.
Okay.
I look at the figures. They didn't add up. It's not working. It's not workable. You understand what I'm saying? I try not to discuss economy because it's so complex and there are too many sick ends in it. For instance, by the end of last week, the stock market lost 460 billion in terms of value. And we were trying to identify the reasons why. And one major factor was the fact that, talking about FDI now, foreign investors, they were moving their funds massively out of Nigeria ahead of the election. And you want to again ask yourself,
knowing full well that elections are very uncertain.
not knowing full well, not knowing what may happen.
That's right.
Okay?
That's the uncertainty.
It's out of fear now, expectation based on fear. Again, you ask yourself, other nations of the world, they conduct elections and it doesn't, the elections do not, at all times, it does not negatively impact on the economy. Why is our case
Because
different?
generally it's not foreign investors, they are foreign portfolio investors.
That's what I'm saying.
That means that they are not rooted here, unlike FDIs, foreign direct investors,
I
who
know,
would be rooted here,
I'm
would
talking
set
of,
up here.
I'm talking of,
so FBIs, that's why it's
not the
happening.
same thing, but
Yes.
of course, it's money coming in.
Yes.
They may not be here physically, but they had their investment
That's
in
why
Nigeria.
it was easy for them to just pull
to
their
easily
funds.
move out of Nigeria. And the reason why is because preparing for election here is akin to preparing for war, whether we like it or not. Ordinary intra-party primaries, you and I saw what happened. World elections, within the parties, you saw what happened. By the time they moved to local government and state,
conventions,
my brother, it became an issue. Again, you are asking yourself, what will happen at the national conventions? Will there be security? Will there be safety? Will there be sanity? These are issues that must be addressed. They must begin to deconstruct occupation of political offices. People should stop seeing it as the end, or a means to an end, whereby even if you were hungry, the day you become a councillor or council chairman, or you get to an assembly or whatever, you are made. But that is what we are seeing.
All right, Alfred. The talks have been all over the place before now that Nigeria has gone out of recession. But does that reflect on regular Nigerians? Does that reflect on the life of regular Nigerians, that Nigeria is out of recession?
Well, obviously it doesn't, but let me also slightly admit that life is not as difficult as it used to be. So I won't be able to quickly say if it's because we're out of the recession or Nigerians are now used to the difficulties so much that it's now becoming a norm. But you see, I'm not an economist, I'm just a village boy. And by my village sense, I know that there is more poverty in the land, there is more hunger in the villages, and there is more to struggle. But you see, we shouldn't, I don't want to end my conversation as though I'm a leftist. What we need to do, we need to begin to concentrate on those activities that will tickle our economy, such as power generation. It was part of this administration that said every government that knows what it's doing will fix power in less than no time. And I believe if they can stay true to their words and fix the resources such as power, Nigerians with their ingenuity will pick up particles of the economy and will begin to do well.
Nigerians are not lazy after all.
No, please.
Of course, Nigerians.
President Buhari said, Nigerians continue to report better power supply and less use of generation of power, generators rather, that we are now, power generation capability now exceeds 7,500 megawatts.
How much was budgeted for power generation in the villa to start with? You see, let me tell you something. If this is the kind of counsel the president has, he needs to tweak the source of his counsel. There is nothing wrong for the president to admit the problems we have so that we can all solve it together. We have massive power problems. The problems of power, the problems with respect to especially NEPA, the problems of corruption and estimated billing and not some, these things are still.
All right, Alfred, because of time, we need to bring in Jermaine. Because we are trying to manage it. We have less than 4 minutes. Jermaine, we just want to bring you in here to have your say before we wrap this session up. Yes, power generation. Let me just throw it to you. South Africa generates at least 40,000 megawatts, and Nigeria is boasting of 7,500 megawatts.
Giant
should we celebrate that? Yes, and it's supposed to be the largest economy on the continent. Oh, it is.
Well, it's quite, we shouldn't celebrate it, but I believe what the government is trying to do is trying to show a difference between their own policies in power generation and their results compared to the last administration. They were saying that they saw like 1,000 megawatts and 3,000 megawatts there, but they've improved it now to 5 point something, and it's now 7.5 or something thousand megawatts. So it's quite a lot of figures that they are bandishing around the place. What Nigerians want to know is that when they put on their lights, do they see light, or do they keep on shouting NEPA or PHC, and as the case may be? Where there is light, there is life. And talking about the economy, to attract more investors, Nigeria, even Lagos, Yaba, they have a lot of bustling entrepreneurs in the IT sector. They need this power to actually do their business so the Nigerian economy can start beginning to grow, and we can now truly be the giants of Africa that we are, not walking around in blindness, but actually having the touch of light and leading the way in the African continent, showing that we truly are an example of what a great democracy can be and what a nation who has good leadership, good followership, and great passion and patriotism for national development should be. And I believe Nigeria will get there. And I'd like to close by saying that the Vice President said something. He said that we're a people of prophecy. And he said that he believes that God has said he's going to build a new Nigeria, whereby no matter your tribe, your religion, we shall live together in love and in peace. And that's my hope in this Democracy Day, that we can actually live in love and peace. But apart from God building that new Nigeria, I believe we as Nigerians need to roll up our sleeves and get to work to build the new Nigeria of our dream. But it starts with leadership, and followers will go ahead too. And
President Buhari gave that similar charge, saying that appealing to Nigerians to avoid hatred and intolerance, that we can only achieve our objectives in an atmosphere of harmony and peaceful coexistence. Thank you very much, Jamin Sowolu, CEO of Diaspora PR, on the show. Thank you for coming.
Well, Charles, the host said he needed to just a few seconds, please.
Because first of all, you take a look at you have the Gencos, that generation, you have the discos, the Juju, and then you have the trunk. So where the problem is not in the power generation. It is the lack of capacity of the discos to distribute. So out of these 7,000, how much now, megawatts we are generating, the capacity for distribution is only 5,000. So we are losing about 2,000 something.
Transmission
because of the land transmission capacity
under the control of the government have issues too.
But again, you know, you had a problem with the Manitoba they were disengaged.
Yes, but because of time.
But the only thing that by the end of this year,
we have to wrap it at this time. Charles, thank you very much.
My word of power. When the man wants to start a barbering salon, we'll have to buy a clipper first and not a generator. To start his salon, I will know we are there.
MSMEs are the way to improve any economy. Thank you very much, Olade Ndiari, your security expert and public affairs analyst. And then Alfred, your last shot, 2 seconds as well.
Well, I wish Nigeria well.
All right.
And like the president said, we have a time bomb at hand, which is the coming elections. Let him stay true to his word. Let us have a free, fair, and credible election. An election that will reflect votes being cast, being counted, and who Nigerians want, irrespective of party, as far as the president can deliver on the manifesto.
Alfred Kemekpado, Secretary General, enjoy you.